Hey everybody, Ben here from DMZ Films, and I'm back with more tips for the intermediate artist. Today we're going to be talking about using oil and acrylic on the same canvas. Now the piece you see here in front of me, I began using regular white acrylic gesso and spreading that around with a knife to give me some really interesting texture. I then went in with acrylic and added sort of a sky in, but it's a little bit thin, a little bit wonky, and I'm actually going to go in with oil and then back in with acrylic to get a nice blended sky. Now the paint I'll be using today is Winsor Newton Artisan Water Mixable Oil Color. Now this stuff lies somewhere between regular oils and something like golden open acrylics, where it allows you to be open and work in a relaxed painting experience, while at the same time be able to clean up easily with soap and water. So the colors we're using today are titanium white, cobalt blue, and Prussian blue. Alright. Now we're going to be starting with a little bit of the titanium white and then mixing in a sort of combination of the Prussian and cobalt blue as our main sky color. So squeeze a little bit of that out, as well as the two blues. And working with these oils rather than acrylics, which is a little bit weird for me, what you'll find is that oils have more spread to them. While you see me using thick and large amounts of color with my acrylic, you'll see me using significantly less with the oils. This blue is getting a little bit stiff. And the Prussian is going to add a really deep and rich blue to the cobalt, and the cobalt will keep the deep, rich blue that we're creating sort of lighter and more relaxed. And if you're unsure about exactly what color you're making, you can spread it over a plain white surface in a thin quantity, or you can actually just add a little bit of white. And you can kind of see the color, once you tint it up, you can see the color that you're working with. Alright, so the brush I grabbed is an old flat brush. It's all kind of ratty and worn out. But it's got nice stiff bristles, which is really what you want for working with oils. And you're going to see me use a lot more water in this process to spread it out, but because of the consistency and the viscosity of the oil paint, you'll be able to do that without any trouble at all. And because I started this with a sort of an underpainting in acrylic, you're going to see that I don't have to use anywhere near as much color to create the desired level of the piece. And again, because this is oil, I can move much slower. I can just let this wet paint sit because I know it's not going to dry immediately like the acrylic would. Alright, so I'm going to start mixing in some of our blue. And as you can see, that blue is really potent. It went right into the white and just really took that up. So we're just going to start mixing that into the top of the white section. Slide this down a little so I get to my edge. Now I'm going to start blending it down into the white. Which again, you can take that as fast or as slow as you want. I'm generally moving pretty quickly, not just for the sake of getting this into the tutorial, but for the sake of just, it's a natural habit for me to move quickly working with acrylics. Alright, now we go a little bit darker. If you've ever been at one of the live hangout events, you'll notice that I'm doing something very similar to what I would in Photoshop. And that's just laying down sort of strips of color and then going into blend a little bit afterwards. I'm actually going to leave this a little bit thicker here. Leave that strip there and we'll go back in a little bit. Take that down. We're not going to try not to go any darker than sort of this shade of blue, because that's really as dark as you want to have it in this case. At this point, I'm not even being real particular. I'm just throwing the color down onto the canvas. A little more water. Let it flow. And because I did the underpainting first, I don't have to worry about any of the paint being too thin in this case. If you were starting just on a regular piece of canvas, no underpainting, you probably want to keep your paint a little bit thicker than this. Sort of like a consistency like this. Generally has more spread than standard acrylics, but still isn't quite as thin as we're making it here. Alright, now at this point you want to take a softer and newer brush to do a lot of your more subtle blending. Just kind of go in real light. Sort of that back and forth. If you want to do a couple of crisscross motions, you can get a much more subtle blend that way. Do sort of an angle for this first one, then come in just left to right. A little more paint in here. Some of these areas got actually a little too thin. I'm kind of surprised on that one. But as the artist, you need to make decisions about that as you're working on the piece. Now I'm not huge on the direct contrast between these two layers. And I kind of want to try and get something a little more subtle here. I have a little blob of white left, and I'm going to go in with this soft brush and make sort of a lighter transition. That looks much better. Lift the brush out a little bit to finish my edges. There we have our completed sky. Now normally with acrylics, after painting the sky, you can go right in and finish the piece. Because this is oil, we have to wait till this layer completely dries before doing anything in acrylic. Now whenever this layer of oil dries, which is probably going to be in the range of 4 to 6 hours, then you can go in with acrylics right over top like you would with any other painting. Finally, before heading back to acrylic painting, you want to make sure you wash out your water and your brushes very thoroughly. The last thing you want to do is be mixing oil with acrylic in the brush, and it just turns out awful and can really ruin your brushes in the long run. And as always, for more tips, tutorials, and other painting videos, please subscribe to the DMC Films channel here on YouTube. This is Ben. See you guys next time.